Hello sports fans, I am Monika Mixova and I race World Cup in downhill mountain biking. Today I'm going to share with you what's the difference between a standard downhill bike and my World Cup race bike. So this is 2020 Santacruz V10. It is a mullet setup, so it's 29er front wheel and a 27.5 rear wheel. I picked it up from Stif in December 2020 and was riding it for a few months just how it was standard. First thing I did, I noticed that the spring was quite hard. So I think the standard V10 comes with 500 spring and I needed something around 400. So I changed that spring straight away, but it was just my guess of what to put on it and how I felt on it. And then at the start of the 2021 season, I went for a telemetry suspension setup with Stif, suspension doctor. We did a couple days of setting up in Hamsley and he suggested to put a different spring on, which is 375, but Fox doesn't do these in between sizes springs, so I ended up with the EXT spring 375. So that was like one of the first changes I did. After this setup, I went and raced the British Downhill National Series in 2021 and ended up 3rd overall in the elite category. This was only my second year racing in elite and it was quite a bit of a surprise for me that I ended up 3rd, but what was more important was that towards the end of the season I actually started pulling better times on all the tracks compared to the top girls. I used to be way more behind them and then I was only a few seconds behind, which made me think that I could maybe race a World Cup. And also in October 21 I got a phone call from the Czech Cycling Federation and they offered me that they've been following my results and they've been following the timings as well, and they said that they would give me the Czech national jersey if I was about to race World Cups in the 22. So I got that offer and that's what sort of set me up that I should race World Cups in 2022. Because I'm a privateer and I have a full-time job, I have only limited time to do some training. So the next thing you're looking at is to have your bike as much dialed as possible to an even standard chance. So I went at the start of 22, went and did suspension settings with Stif again. I went and did one day at Davy and one day at Rev, and Stif recommended to get better suspension. I had the standard suspension on the V10, which means I only had one clicker for compression and one clicker for rebound on both forks and the shock. So I upgraded this in about March 22 and I've put the factory grip 2 fork inserts in this and factory DHX2 shock, which means that allowed me to have 2 clickers on both high speed and low speed compression and high speed low speed rebound. So that allows me to do way more settings on my suspension and get it properly dialed based on every track. When I told Stif that I'm going to race a World Cup in 22 in Fort William, they helped me with some other upgrades. So next thing I picked up my reserve wheels, so full carbon wheels with Industry 9 hubs. So the wheels are way lighter than what I had on before and they are really responsive, so I would turn in a corner and I could just turn really quick. The rear hubs got more engagement points, so as soon as you need to pedal it, it just engages and it sounds cool. Next upgrade, brakes. So I used to have Code R brakes on, they are good, but I've upgraded to Code RSC. The difference is that there is an extra adjuster and I can adjust the lever while keeping my engagement point where I need it. My problem is I have tiny hands, I wear kids gloves, so I've got really short fingers, so I need the lever to be closer to the bars and while also at the same time keeping the engagement point where I need it to be. The problem I always had was that when I moved the lever closer to the bars, the engagement point would be right on the grip and then you wouldn't be able to brake. So that solved the problem. With these changes, I went and raced the British Nationals in Fort William in May 22. I did alright, I was 9th, there was loads of pros, collected some UCI points, but I really struggled with my hands. Obviously I can't do as much riding as I wish, so I went to Stif and Jim suggested to put thinner handlebars on. So I went from the 35mm stem and bars to the 31.8. In theory, thinner bars should provide more flex, which means more vibration would be absorbed more. So I changed the bars just before the World Cup, and I've put cush core in both of my wheels, and Steve came and did the telemetry suspension settings on the practice of the World Cup. So I had the suspension absolutely spot on, and I did alright. I think I was 21st in quali, and I wasn't actually that far from the qualifying time. I expected to be way worse. I've also caught up the rider in front of me and had to go a beeline and lost quite a few seconds there. I was absolutely buzzing and went back to work. 2 weeks before World Champs in Leger, I got a phone call from the Czech Cycling Federation that I've been selected to race the World Champs. I was obviously at work, I had to reshuffle things, but got time off work, and next minute I was on the way to Leger. Last time I was in Leger was probably 5 years ago, when I was on holiday in Morzine, and that was even before I properly raced downhill. As soon as I did my first practice run, I realised I need my suspension firmer and I need more support in the forks, because there's sections in the track which are really steep, and there's big features, obviously, on a World Cup. There's massive drop, heavy landings, and I just needed to do that. So I put 2 tokens in my forks and played with the suspension a little bit. Cracked on. So the second practice day, I realised I really struggled with my hands, because I was getting up to speed, so I was going faster, I was ticking off all the features, but I got to the bottom of the track, the bottom section of the woods, and I could not hold on. My hands were just knackered. So I spoke to one of my friends, and he said, put bigger discs on. So I went from 200 to 220 and 223. So 223 disc at the front, 220 at the back, because you can't actually pull any bigger one because it's touching nearly the back end. I didn't have these discs, so I got one from SRAM and one from Jim from Union. Thank you guys. He put it on, and I also put thicker grips on. So at that time I had the Birkte grips on, and I went for the Death grip. They are about 2 mil thicker, so then I found that it actually helped. So I put them on and managed to race the World Champs, and I was 28th in the world, which I was really proud of. I did struggle to hold on, but obviously I was really happy. So that was 22. I only raced some nationals after, because I went back to work and I had quite a hectic work schedule at the time. So I did one more nationals, I think, but that was it for the year. After that year, I thought I would love to race a full World Cup season. I put together more sponsors, I needed more money, I quit my job and found a new job where I could have more time off for training and more time for racing. Did a massive planning, rescheduled everything, and went to Portugal for a training camp in February 2023. Did 3 days riding, and on the 4th day I was supposed to race the Portuguese Cup in Tarouca, and on, I think it was my second run down, I had a stupid fall and broke my right collarbone. So ended up in Portuguese hospital, and it was not the right start to 2023 season, because I literally was planning to race the full 6 World Cups in Europe. But because it was February, I thought I'll be fine, I'll crack on my physio and whatnot, and I'll be back on time. Just before I was back on my downhill bike, I sent my suspension to Czech, and they put this WPS revalve kit in both my shock and my forks, and that allows the suspension to work even better than before, because I did testing with Steve again after this, and he was really happy with the results, and I felt proper good on the bike. I was getting faster, was getting back up to speed, and I went to race British Nationals in Fort William in May again, and in my seeding run I binned it and broke my left collarbone. Not ideal, and that was pretty bad, because I was about to set off for the next 3 World Cups in Europe, and it was frustrating because I was injured again. It was really hard to get back after 2 injuries, because my whole upper body was just completely weak and there was no muscle left, but I was determined to still make it to the last 3 World Cups of the season in Europe. So all I could do is just ride my bike when I could, but there was really short time, there was only a few weekends I could actually ride. And then I got a phone call from the Czech Cycling Federation, and they selected me to race the World Champs in Fort William, which was in August. So I only had 4 weekends where I could actually do some training. It wasn't ideal, but I had the opportunity, so I just thought I'm just going for it. I went to Innes to do some practice. I couldn't even hold on. I couldn't even do one full lap at Innes. I was almost in tears because I thought that in 3 weeks' time I don't think I can race World Champs. But then I thought, right, what else can I do with the bike to make this better? And I went and bought these rev grips. And that was the last thing I did because I didn't know what else to do basically. So I put rev grips on and then went to Innes again the next week. And like, yes, I was doing loads of physio every day, but this was 7 days difference. And the next weekend I could do 7 full laps on the same track. I think it did help me at the time, and it gave me just a little bit more confidence. Rev grips on and went and did the World Champs in Fort William, and I suffered a lot, but all the changes I did to the bike obviously helped for me to be able to even finish, because when I was on the practice I had to stop like 5 times on the track. And I know everyone is suffering with the hands. It's a really long track, and it's a known brutal track, but I think I was not really fit to race, but I was still happy that I've managed to do it and I managed to finish. I partially dislocated my shoulder in practice. Not many people know that. Anyway, I just cracked on and did it. After the World Champs, I was about to race the Andorra, Ludenville and Leger World Cup, but our van broke down and I missed Andorra. So everything was going wrong, but then we managed to fix it, and I still managed to race Ludenville and managed to race Leger World Cups. These are all the parts I've changed on my bike since 2020 until 2023, and this will be my race bike for 2024. I'm not sure how much I'm going to race actually, because I don't really have much money to race World Cups. So if I can, I would love to race World Cup in Fort William again. Otherwise, you will see me at the British National Rounds and some other races in the UK. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions. I hope I didn't forget anything. That should be it anyway. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Oh. Just